We're now going to take a look at responsive scaling of type. And one of the things you may have noticed if you've been following this series is that the guide to web typography is really, we haven't done very much with that at all. And that's because we want to specifically look at this scaling to do with the screen width. And I've just gone into Chrome, I've right-clicked and gone into Inspect, which brings this view up, and then I've toggled on here this responsive view, and you can change it to different size screens, but we've gone for responsive so we can grab easily the sides and bring it in and out. And we're really concerned with how we make this text here respond. So let's go in and work directly with this. And we sort of played around with this before, and we gave it font sizes in earlier versions. We're just going to overwrite all of that right now. And instead of using like the M system we talked about before, we're going to use VW for this. And it's only really worth doing this on headings because it scales so dramatically. And so if we say this 5VW, what we actually end up with inside here is that we've got our text that is 5% of the vertical width. So as you move this up and down, it scales right up and down based upon that. That works quite well. Let's just change our line height as well, because at some point it's going to break. And let's add a little bit of margin around here. Now, the same way we talked about margin with paragraphs, the same thing occurs with margin on headings. So if I put this to 0, we'll see what happens is this text immediately now, because there's a default margin around here that is now so close to it, so it doesn't work. So what we are going to say instead is that a 15 pixel top bottom and 0 left and right, and that way we just get a little bit of margin and there's a little gap between that and the following trailing text behind it. Okay, so that's working out really good. One thing I am going to do this is just pick the whole thing up and move it into my media query at the bottom here. The reason for that is just because this is for a large size screen. I'm going to copy it and just drop it in to my medium size screen, because what you'll see happen is when it gets down to the tablet size, things are beginning to break somewhere further down the screen, which I need to fix, but it's not working out exactly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this and say font size here be 7. So that at this point here, it wraps better at this point. Let's again just pick that up and do something with it in the small size screen. One thing I'm just going to do in here as well is our multi-line column. Let's take that and say column count 1. And that fixes that. So now we can see no matter what size we move this up to, it scales with the width of the screen. It's quite dramatic and fills the screen width quite well when it's at the large size screen, and then at the smaller size screens it does get a little bit too small, so we've made the font size a little bit bigger and bumped it up again there at the small size screen, and we can see that it's working fine right from tiny mobile size screens right up until desktop screen.